Welcome to this episode of A Little Privacy, Please. I'm Jenny Holmes, and with me is my co-host, Jason Kravitz. Today, we have a really exciting guest. Fran Malloy is currently a cybersecurity technical leader at IBM, but prior to that, he was the director of IT operations, support, and risk management at a major North American retailer. A retailer that in 2016 had a massive cybersecurity event. Fran's here with us today to talk through his experience leading the company through the discovery, the investigation, and the remediation of this event. Fran, can you tell us what happened?
So it was July 4th weekend in 2016, and I got a call from the CIO that said that Brian Krebs called us. And Brian Krebs is a forensics journalist. He has a website. And what we found out after bringing in a forensics investigator and outside counsel and things like that, it took a couple of weeks, but we found out that there was some malware on 298 of our 325 stores. And it was actually capturing data for about 6 months. So it was capturing credit card data for 6 months. It took them about 3 weeks after a phishing attack that one of our merchants answered back in Christmas time. And we went through quite a bit, up to that point. And we had meetings 3 times a day with outside counsel, with chief legal counsel, with a forensic investigator, and it was all verbal. And I was working 14-hour days for quite a few weeks there, and it was very nerve-wracking.
So, Fran, I know this is already 9 years ago, but I'll bet you this is sort of seared in your brain. And I think it's probably fair to say, and tell me if you disagree, but companies now are a little more sophisticated about these types of attacks and data breaches and hacks than they were maybe 9 years ago. But what was going through your brain when you get this call and you realize that there may very well have been a breach?
That's a really good question because I was responsible for everything. If a store was down because of a network issue or something or the distribution center couldn't print. So having a security issue was really nerve-wracking because you really didn't know if you had an issue or not for at least 2 weeks. It took us a couple of weeks to figure that out. And you're going through a lot of emotions, at that time. And the emotions are, am I going to lose my job or not? And what should I be saying to somebody or not saying to somebody? And we relied upon legal counsel for a lot of those things. And we had to get quite a few people involved. But at the same time, we limited who understood that we were investigating a credit card breach. We did that on purpose because of a possibility, which we ended up having, was a lawsuit.
So we regularly encourage our clients, we stress the importance of having a really strong, updated incident response plan. Did you have a plan in place? Was it effective?
So back then, we had a plan in place that said, let's get the CIO, the CFO, chief legal counsel together with the IT people and decide what to do next, which is really not a plan. And I know I'm much more qualified right now to put a plan together. But there's a lot of things you've got to figure out, and you need to work with your different teammates to do that. Like public relations, you've got to possibly use an outside PR firm to notify the customers. You've got to use an outside legal team that understands this is the time when you need to notify the state of Rhode Island or the state of California or something like that. So, and you've got to notify your employees. So you've got to figure all that out. When are you going to do that and things like that? So I think right now with the right consultants or teams, you can put a good incident response plan together. But I think one of the more important things I found out was you got to make sure you know who's going to make decisions.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, I think it's chaos, right? It is chaos from start to finish, at least in the early days of breach response. And the more you can try to organize and bring some order to the chaos, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, because this was the first time I went through it, and it's always chaos when you're trying to do something immediate and you've never been through it before.
Yeah, well, I can assure you, and I'm sure you feel that way now also, is having done many of them, they're always still chaotic. You try to reassure people who are going through this for the first time, but there is no way to eliminate that chaos altogether. It's inherent. It's sort of baked in the cake. Is there anything that you wish you had done differently, or would have? If you go back in time 9 years, would you do something differently?
So there's a lot of things I would do differently. Some to prepare, some to prevent. I think understanding some of the ramifications. Like, for instance, this was a credit card breach, so we had to deal with the banks, and we had to deal with their forensics investigator. We had insurance, cyber insurance. And nowadays, a cyber insurance policy is written much differently than it was in 2016. So you might have to let them know at different phases. You may have to involve their staff for forensics investigation. All those type of things are a lot different. But one of the things that I wish I knew differently was, I'm going to get a subpoena. I'm going to appear in a deposition, and these are the things that's going to happen. And I was under attorney-client privilege. Here's what you can say and can't say. I would say, if I knew that was coming and what it would be like, which wasn't fun, by the way, that probably was the one thing that I would like to do differently, would be understanding and preparing for a deposition.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I can't imagine what it had been like. This is the time where we like to do some fun little zingers for you, completely unrelated. But so, Fran, you shared, I believe your son is in law school, right?
Yes, he is. Yes.
So after spending so much time with attorneys, do you still support that decision? Do you wish he had taken a different path like med school?
He's very excited about law school. I think it's the right thing for him. And he's excited about the school itself and his friends and all that. So I do support it, But my mother used to say, okay, all you kids, I've got 7 kids, you all went to college, but none of you can fix the toilet. Or, I should have had an electrician or a plumber.
I was doing some research on you, as we do for, we vet all of our guests on A Little Privacy, Please. Put them through the background check, the ringer. And I found something online about an IBM cybersecurity virtual bourbon tasting. And I wanted to know, first of all, is that legit? And second of all, how do we get on that guest list? Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of A Little Privacy, Please. Really thanks to Fran Malloy. We'll see everyone at the next episode of A Little Privacy, Please. Thanks for joining us.